Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today, we are talking about two words that learners use every single day, but often mix up in ways that make their English sound slightly off. These two words are close in meaning, but they have very different jobs, and understanding those jobs will make your English much more natural and precise.
Yes, and I think what makes these two words tricky is that they both deal with quantity and degree. They both answer the question, how much, or to what extent. But when you dig into them, they each have their own specific situations where they belong.
The two words today are much and more. Let us start right at the beginning with the simplest way to understand each one.
So, what is the basic idea behind much?
Much is used to talk about a large quantity or degree of something. It answers the question, how much of something is there? And the important thing to know from the start is that much is almost always used with uncountable nouns. Uncountable nouns are things you cannot count individually. Water, time, money, information, patience, effort, love, sugar, traffic.
So you say much water, much time, much money, much effort. You are talking about a large amount of something that you cannot count one by one.
Exactly. You cannot say one water, two waters, three waters. Water is uncountable, so you say much water. You cannot count individual units of patience, so you say much patience.
And much is used most naturally in questions and negative sentences. How much water did you drink? I did not drink much water. Did she have much trouble getting there? There was not much traffic today.
Right. In positive statements, much can sound a bit formal or stiff in everyday conversation. You wouldn't normally say, I drank much water today. You would say, I drank a lot of water today. But in questions and negatives, much is very natural. How much did it cost? It did not cost much.
So, for positive statements, in casual speech, a lot of is more natural. But in questions and negative sentences, much fits perfectly.
That is a really useful rule. Much in questions and negatives feels natural. Much in positive everyday statements often sounds too formal, and a lot of works better there.
Now, let's talk about more. What is the basic idea behind more?
More is a comparative word. It means a greater amount or degree compared to something else. More always involves a comparison, either directly stated or implied. You are saying this amount is bigger than another amount or bigger than before.
So, more is not just about quantity, it's about quantity in relation to something. More than last time, more than yesterday, more than before, more than the other option.
Exactly. More carries the idea of comparison built right inside it. You cannot fully understand more without knowing what it is being compared to.
Can you give simple examples?
Sure. She drank more water today than yesterday. The comparison is today versus yesterday. He has more patience than I do. The comparison is him versus me. We need more time to finish this. The comparison is the time we have versus the time we need.
And more is used with both countable and uncountable nouns. More water, more books, more ideas, more chairs, more information, more people. It works with everything.
That is one way more is more flexible than much. Much only works with uncountable nouns. More works with both countable and uncountable.
Now, let's compare much and more directly, because I think that's where the real understanding happens.
Good idea. The key difference is that much describes a large amount without necessarily comparing it to anything. More describes a greater amount compared to something else.
So much time means a large amount of time. More time means a greater amount of time than something else. Another option, another person, another moment in time.
Much water means a large quantity of water. More water means a greater quantity of water than before or than something else.
So if I'm just describing how much of something there is, I use much. If I'm comparing two amounts, I use more.
That is the cleanest way to put it. Describing a large amount equals much. Comparing amounts equals more.
Now, I want to go deeper into how each word is used in different sentence types, because I think this is where learners really need detail.
Let us start with much in questions. Much is extremely common in questions. How much does it cost? How much time do we have? How much sugar should I add? How much effort did she put in? In all of these, you are asking about the quantity or degree of something uncountable.
And much in negative sentences. I do not have much money right now. She did not show much interest in the project. There was not much left on the plate. He doesn't spend much time outdoors. Negative sentences with much are very natural and very common.
Much also appears in expressions: so much, too much, this much, that much, very much, how much, as much as. These fixed combinations are used constantly in everyday English.
So much means a very large amount. I have so much work to do. Too much means more than is good or comfortable. There is too much noise in here. As much as means an equal amount. I trust her as much as I trust him.
Very much is used to intensify. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much. She missed him very much. Here, much follows the verb and intensifies the feeling.
Now, let's go deeper into more. More in comparisons is the most common use. He earns more than she does. This bag costs more than the other one. I need more sleep than I usually get. She studies more than anyone else in the class.
More is also used to ask for additional amounts. Can I have more, please? Is there more coffee? Do you want more time? Here, more means an additional amount of what already exists.
And more is used with longer words to make comparative adjectives and adverbs. More beautiful, more interesting, more carefully, more efficiently. You add more before longer adjectives and adverbs instead of adding er to the end.
That is a very important use. Short adjectives like tall, fast, hot use the er ending. Taller, faster, hotter. But longer adjectives like beautiful, interesting, comfortable use more. More beautiful, more interesting, more comfortable.
And this use of more has nothing to do with quantity. It's purely grammatical. More is forming the comparative degree of an adjective or adverb.
Right. More and much are connected through the idea of degree, but this grammatical use of more with adjectives stands slightly apart.
Now, more also appears in the expression more and more, which means increasingly. Things are getting more and more expensive. She is becoming more and more confident. The problem is growing more and more serious.
More and more shows a continuing increase. Each repetition of more emphasizes that the increase keeps happening. It's a very natural and expressive structure in English.
And the more is another useful structure. The more you practice, the better you get. The more time you spend on it, the more progress you make. This shows that two things increase together.
These structures with more are really worth learning as chunks because they come up constantly in both speaking and writing.
Now, let's talk about an important area where much and more are used together, and that's in the expression much more.
Yes, much more is a combination where much intensifies more. She works much more than he does. This is much more expensive than I expected. He has much more experience than the other candidates.
So much more means a lot more, a great deal more. Much is strengthening the comparison that more is making.
And the same works with much less. She earns much less than her colleagues. It is much less complicated than it looks.
So much can be used before more or less to intensify a comparison. That is a very useful structure for expressing strong differences.
Now let us go through the most common mistakes learners make with much and more.
Mistake number 1 is using much with countable nouns, saying, I have much books, or there were much people there. Much only works with uncountable nouns. For countable nouns in positive statements, you say many. I have many books. There were many people there.
Much for uncountable, many for countable in positive statements. That distinction is very important.
Mistake number 2 is using much in positive sentences in casual speech where it sounds unnatural, saying, I have much work today instead of, I have a lot of work today. In everyday positive statements, a lot of flows more naturally than much.
Mistake number 3 is using more when you simply mean a large amount without any comparison, saying, she has more patience instead of she has a lot of patience or she has so much patience when there is no comparison being made. If there is no comparison implied, then more is not the right word.
Mistake number 4 is forgetting that more is used with long adjectives to make comparisons, saying she is beautifuler instead of she is more beautiful. Long adjectives need more, not the ER ending.
Mistake number 5 is confusing much more with just more in strong comparisons, saying it is just more expensive when you want to express a strong difference. If the difference is large and you want to emphasize it, say it is much more expensive.
Mistake number 6 is using much when asking about countable things, saying, how much chairs do you have? For countable nouns in questions, you use how many. How many chairs do you have? How much is for uncountable things. How much water, how much time, how much money.
That how much versus how many distinction is one of the most foundational rules in English, and it connects directly to the much rule. Much equals uncountable, many equals countable.
Now, let me ask you about some situations where learners often feel unsure, because I think working through real cases builds the most confidence.
Sure, let us do it.
Someone asks you if you enjoyed a meal. You want to say you enjoyed it a great deal. How do you use much there?
You say, I enjoyed it very much, or I enjoyed it so much. Much here follows the verb and expresses a high degree of enjoyment. Very much and so much are natural intensifiers after verbs.
You want to say that your new job requires more effort than your old one. How does more work there?
This job requires more effort than my previous one. More is making a direct comparison between two jobs. The amount of effort required is greater now than before.
You want to say there is a lot of traffic on the road right now. No comparison, just a large amount.
There is so much traffic today, or there is a lot of traffic today. Traffic is uncountable, so much works, and in a casual positive statement, so much or a lot of flows more naturally than just much alone.
You want to say she is comparing two study methods, and one is clearly more effective.
This method is much more effective than the other one. More makes the comparison, and much intensifies it to show the difference is significant.
You want to ask someone how much money they spent on their holiday.
How much did you spend on your holiday? Or how much money did you spend? How much is correct because money is uncountable.
You want to say things are gradually getting more difficult, using the more and more structure.
Things are getting more and more difficult. The repeated more shows a continuing increase in difficulty over time.
You got every single one of those perfectly.
And I hope listeners were testing themselves before hearing each answer, because that active engagement is what makes new language patterns stick.
Now, before we close, I want to talk about something that ties much and more together in a way that I think will help everything make sense as a whole.
Yes, please.
Both much and more are about degree and quantity. They both answer the question, how much? But much says, this is a large amount, as a simple description, and more says, this amount is greater than another amount, as a comparison.
So if you're just describing how big or how much something is, and there is no comparison happening, reach for much. If you're putting two things side by side and saying one is bigger or greater, reach for more.
And when you need to show that the difference is very large, you can combine them. Much more shows a strong comparison. Much less shows a strong downward comparison.
Those three patterns will carry you through the vast majority of much and more situations you'll ever face.
Now, let's close with some confidence for everyone listening, because I know quantifiers and comparisons can feel like a dense area of English grammar.
Yes, and I want to say that if you've been saying a lot of in situations where much or more would be more precise, you've been perfectly understood. A lot of is a perfectly natural expression. Learning much and more is about adding more precision and variety to your English, not about fixing something that was broken.
Right. A lot of is your reliable friend. Much and more are new tools that give you more options, more ways to express yourself, more choices for different situations and tones.
And with these tools, you can sound more natural in questions and negatives, more sophisticated in comparisons, and more expressive when you want to show strong differences.
Every word you truly understand is a new way to say what you mean, and saying exactly what you mean is what communication is all about.
So keep building your vocabulary. Keep noticing these words in the English around you, and trust that every lesson is adding something real and lasting to your English.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. We hope much and more feel much clearer and that you feel genuinely ready to use both of them with confidence.
Keep going, and we'll see you in the next episode.